Excuse me, everyone. We now have our speakers in conference. Please be aware that each of your lines is currently in a listen-only mode. At the conclusion of the presentation, we will open the floor for questions, and at that time, instructions will be given if you'd like to ask a question. If you do have questions or comments, you can enter them in the discussion area. I would now like to turn the conference over to Minkin Liao.
Well, hi, everybody. It's interesting that I cannot see all of you, but I'm just assuming that you guys can hear me. The only way that I can interact sort of with you is through the discussion area on your left-hand side, if you can see that little window there. And so just to let me know that you're there and you can respond and interact with me. I would like to ask you if you would like to start with a few questions. So now, please let me know, have you been to ASMCUE, the conference for undergraduate educators meeting? Have you ever been to ASMCUE? I just want to see how many of you have been to CUE. Some have, some haven't. Oh, yes. Yes. Kelly, yes. All right. So how about the second question? Okay, some people. So the second question, have you presented a poster there? Have you ever submitted an abstract and presented a poster or a microbrew or give a talk or have any sort of presentation at ASMCUE? So wonderful. A lot of you actually have some experience. So during my presentation, please give your insight or input through the discussion area. That would be great too. So while we're here, the reason that we're giving this presentation is because some biology scholars, some of you actually make a request, ask for a presentation, a webinar or a seminar on how to prepare abstracts for ASMCUE. So that's why we have this, and this just to show you that whenever we biology, I'm also a biology scholar, and whenever we biology scholars have any request, Kelly and Carrie and other people in ASM actually listen, and not only they listen, they make things happen. So let's not forget to thank them after the talk. So let me start with disclaimer here. I'm not an expert in abstracts. Not like I'm a queen of abstract submitter. Every abstract that I submit got accepted. I actually have abstracts got rejected. You know, just like every other scientist, our abstracts, our proposal, our manuscripts got rejected. So I'm not really an expert here, but I'm giving this webinar because I have served on the abstract review committee for a few years. This just to tell you that I don't know how to say no. May that be a lesson to you. So if you want to learn something, if you don't learn anything, at least you learn. Don't always say yes. So I don't know how to say no. So I've been on this review committee for a few years, and over the years I have a lot of discussion with the committee members, and we share our ideas about what kind of poster what kind of abstract should we accept and reject and modify. So I know a thing or two about what we're looking for in an abstract. So that's what I'm going to share with you today. Okay, so right away, here's the outline of today's presentation. I'll just briefly go over the process of review, what happened when you click the submit button, what happened to your abstract. And then after you click the submit button, there'll be three outcomes, right? One would be, well, immediate reject. Right away you get rejected. Or one right away an abstract got accepted, and right away we decided that it should be modified. So, and then through this process for the outcome, I'm going to have a little bit of a discussion. I want to see what you think. What do you think? What kind of abstracts would be an immediate reject? What would be reject? What kind of abstract should be rejected right away, and what kind of abstract should we accept right away, and what kind of abstract should we ask them to modify? So I'm going to ask you to write down what you think in the discussion area. And then I'll show you an example, one of the abstracts that we had last year. I'm going to show you an example to go over why we accept this abstracts and why we don't, and why we ask people to modify an abstracts. And after we have this little examples and have this little interactions a little bit, I want to go through the guidelines and rubrics that are posted on the ASMCUE website. Wait, I have a question. It's ASMCUE website. The guideline and rubrics are all there, and that is what we use to review abstracts. Those were our guidelines and rubrics too. We're not hiding anything from you. It's all there. It's no secret. But we're going to go over it, just kind of solidify what we just discussed, and clarify everything. And then I'll give you a couple of things to remember and a couple of suggestions. And then we open to question and answering. And everything that we biology scholars do, we'll have to have survey. So that's what we're going to do. So now a little bit of this recent history. Last year there were 77 abstracts got reviewed. So we have 77 abstracts got reviewed, and 65 were accepted. So so that means statistics is on your side. There are only 12 that weren't accepted. And actually, after our discussion, you'll find out that those who got rejected, those abstracts that got rejected, are for a very, very obvious reason. And not all 12 were actually. I looked. Not all 12 are just far rejected. Some of them we asked them to modify, and then decided not to come. And there are reasons for it. So we will talk about it. And so this year, the review committee we have 7 members in our review committee, and I'm the chair. So there are another 6. Now, the remaining 6, we divided them into 2 teams. So there are 2 teams, and each team of 3 review half of the abstracts, and I review all of them. Now, the reason we do it that way was, well, we don't want to burden everybody to review of 70-some or 80-some abstracts. Another reason is that sometimes those reviewers, they want to submit abstracts too. So in that case, their own abstract, they don't have to. They won't review their own abstracts. The other team will review their abstracts. And then we have a lot of new people this year, and we're just really excited to have younger faculty members and bring new talents and new insight to our committee. So now the criteria that a reviewer would be used, just 2 criteria that can be found in ASMCUE, just a demonstration of a scientific problem. Basically, why are you doing it? Why? What's the question? Why do you want to do it? And how did you do it? And what have you learned from it? So that is the first criteria. And the second one is the quality of written content. Basically, how well you tell us why you're doing it, how did you do it, and what have you learned from it. So these are just 2 main criteria. And all the reviewers will be, every single one of us will have a big spreadsheet. On that spreadsheet, there will be the abstract, the author of the abstract, and the title of the abstract. And then each of us kind of read, and then we decide, well, I think this abstract should be a reject, this abstract should be an accept, and this abstract should be a modify. So people vote. And then I will look at everybody's comments. If everybody agrees, it's all R's or they're all A's, that's just great. It's easy that way. And I would love to see all A's. So if we agree, then that's it. And we just send a letter to the authors and say, well, please come to ASM. Now you can schedule your travel. Or R, I just mean, well, sorry, this is not really the right meeting for you. Now when we don't agree, so that's a little bit problematic, we don't agree, then I'll have to make the judgment call. Sometimes we have 2 M and 1 R, and sometimes we have 2 A's and 1 M. And most of the time, what I do is, well, I want to respect every reviewer's comments. So if we have 2 A's and 1 M, I'll look at what the reviewer thinks, what this particular reviewer thinks that what should be modified. And if we just things like I would like to see the p-value, or I would like to see strengthen the conclusion, the strength and conclusion. Then I'll just say, well, that makes sense. It's you're right. You will strengthen the abstract. So in that case, we'll make it modify, and we'll send a letter to the author and say, could you please add one sentence about this and that? And sometimes reviewers say modify, and the reason was kind of, it's not that important. And I'll say, well, then just accept it. So I'll just make the final call. That's what I do. So now let's think about it. Let's talk about immediate rejections right away. So now, as all of us, if you were an abstract reviewer, what kinds of abstracts would you reject right away? So could you please put your answers on discussion area? So what kind of abstract would you reject? I kind of slowed down. Actually, I'm reading your answers. I think we all know why some got rejected. You guys know a lot about reviewing. So here's my top 10 list, sort of immediate reject. A lot of times, we get abstract for selling products. Yeah, that's right. Don't have a valid questions. Well, sometimes we get abstracts that are selling products. So we're selling this fluorescence antibodies we want people to use. So or sometimes we have graduate school recruits or some other program recruits. Then in that case, we ask them to be an exhibitor. We don't want them to give us a poster, so that's not right. And irrelevant, out of scope. Sometimes it's very, very easy to tell that these people kind of missed the ASM general meeting deadline, so they turn in an abstract to CUE meeting, and I don't understand. So here's an example from last year. This group turned in an abstract, submitted an abstract. The title of the abstract is Development and Validation of CDK2 assays Using Luminescent Method in 384 well plate format. And so the whole abstract is all about how they do the assay, how they modify the assay, how this new plate worked better. And that's nothing to do with education and anything. So apparently they missed the ASM general meeting deadline, so they submitted this deadline and submitted to this meeting. So that is right away. That's out. Now that's out. So have no and have been published and or presented before June 14, 2012. That's just mechanical. And not innovative. Sometimes, I have a poster, an abstract saying, well, we don't know if our students are learning each micro technique well. I don't know. We don't know if they're doing gram stand well. We don't know if they're doing streak plate well. So we are going to grade them. So that's not very innovative because we all give grades to their lab, or you can test them, but test students. So, having a grading system for each technique is not quite innovative, especially when you don't have any assessment method telling us that this new grading system works much better and students actually learn a lot better. And we're biology scholars. We have all kind of ideas. I have all kind of ideas, but not very ideas are very innovative. And not all the ideas that I have hypotheses. I mean, I just don't want to give students extra credits all the time, so I decided to give them stickers. And I find out students are totally driven by stickers. I don't know why. Something that you'd never grow out of since 3. So my students love stickers. There's no point, but I can't prove that they've learned better with stickers. So there's no question. It's interesting. I don't think it's that innovative. So not every project is presentable in the CUE meeting. And sometimes objective is unclear. I mean, some of you mentioned that it's just not, we don't know why you're doing it. A lot of time it's just afterthought. When you read the abstract, you realize it's afterthought. Some people did it and thought, "Ooh, by the way, I think that's a good idea." So it's not a very well thought out project. It wasn't planned in the beginning. It just after you did it, it's like, "Ooh, that sounds good. I'm going to write a poster about it." So in that case, maybe the better thing to do is to, well, if this works, so next time I'm going to plan ahead and just collect the data, and then we'll have a more complete project that way. So objective is not clear. A lot of times it's an afterthought. And inadequate experimental method, and that too, just because it didn't think through it or didn't really plan in the beginning. Insufficient data, a lot of times, I would say this is probably the most important reason that the single reason that very, very, very good projects got rejected. Because the project is still in progress. We don't have data yet. So in that case, we would like you to come back next year, not this year, because you don't have enough data yet. Student learning unaddressed. We don't know whether students really learn. Sometimes some people say, well, I tried to get students to do it this way, and I think my students are so much better engaged. How do I know that they're engaged? Well, more hands are raised. Asking for questions, they ask questions, or when I ask questions, more hands are raised to answer my questions. Well, that's not really, that's not quite learning that we're looking for, or maybe you should have a control or something so we can compare. So it's just kind of a scientific method. Just tell us numbers. So if you say more hands are raised, so how much more? 20%, 50%, twofold? 10 folds of hands. If you have a class of 100, now 80% are raising their hands, and that's engagement. And before, there were only 8 students raising their hands. So tell us a little bit more about that. And that, a lot of times it's just reject right away. And there's no conclusion. Sometimes there's no conclusion. So that is not good. So now, what do you think of good abstracts? What do good abstracts have in common? So put it in the discussion area. Very clear. Right, complete story. Great. Great. That's exactly right. A good abstract makes me want to read the paper or the poster, want me to visit the poster. That's wonderful. That's right. So what you do actually deepens and extend what we learn. All right, so I'm going to share with you this abstract that we accept right away. We accept this one. I'm going to show it to you right away without, even though this particular abstract did not present any positive results. And all reviewers say yes to this abstract. So I'm going to show you why it got accepted right away. So this is from Jennifer Connor. This is last year's abstract and last year's poster presentation. So you don't have to read through it. I'm going to highlight the areas in the next slide. So right away, she told us the study examined intellectual development and critical thinking skills in students enrolled in courses in the general biology sequence over a 3-year period. So right away, this is what they're trying to do. And why are they doing it? The study stemmed from a noted decline in students' performance in the 3rd course in the general biology sequence compared to the first course. So that's the problem, right? The students, when they're taking the third biology course, they do poorly. Their performance actually declined, and also their attitude. Also, student attitudes toward the third course were poor. So academically, emotionally, they're just not engaged. The third course is more challenging, as it includes in-class activity to foster critical thinking with many additional application level questions. So it's harder. So now that is their problem. We know that this is their setting. That's the background. Here's the question. So the students in the third course, they're academically, they're not doing well. They're not performing well, and then they don't like it either. So now they have a hypothesis. So she said the hypothesis of this study is number one. I'm not going to read the hypothesis, but they have two hypotheses. And then to test these hypotheses, so they came up with a method. So we have introduction to one of the four sections or two of the three sections. So they have little control. So they test their hypotheses. And then a survey. So that's how they do it. A survey to measure students' attitudes, confidence in intellectual development according to pyramid scheme were administered to students. So that is sort of their method. That's what they did. So it's a survey, and data were collected. Data sets were compared using a t-test assuming equal variance. So that's what I did. And here's are their results. So you can see the red did not statistically differ. So they didn't really have positive results. Their hypotheses didn't, the null hypotheses didn't get falsified. So it's not what. Look at the p-value; it's pretty big. So they didn't get good results. But she has a conclusion. Why they get that kind of results? Well, biomedical engineering majors do not take the third course in sequence. So it's not like the first biology, second biology, third biology course. Do not take them in sequence, and sometimes they delay. So maybe the gap in between caused this kind of attitude change, or that caused that their method didn't work out well. So this discontinuity may, with the introduction of engineering course, may have impacted the result. So that is their conclusion. So this we accept right away. We didn't ask them to modify because we're not accepting abstracts with positive results. That's not really our goal. That is not our goal to accept paper. This is not publication, only positive result, only amazing result get published. This is ASM. It's a CUE meeting. We want everybody to come. So in this case, in her abstracts, she met two criteria. She demonstrated scientific method. Hypothesis, here's the problem, here's hypotheses, here's why we do it, here's how we do it, and what we've learned from it. And it was very clearly written, so we accept them right away. And we actually think it's very important for people like Jennifer to come to our meeting, and everybody, even though you don't have good positive results, that's what you expected, because you came over here, and people will visit your poster, look at your poster abstract. People will visit your poster, and you can interact with them. You can discuss with them. Maybe you can get better idea about how to do it next time. So there's a benefit of being in the meeting, and we would really like to have everybody in the meeting, but we just want to make sure that your abstract is very well written, so you will attract attendees. You will attract poster visitors. People come over to your poster, and you can discuss with them. So that's why we accept these posters without any, no, everybody say, yeah, go, we take this one. So now what about modify? Basically everything in between reject and accept. So what do you think? What do you think that we ask for modify? No, I'm just reading what you said. Yes, no effect is still a result. So that's why we accept her poster right away, abstract right away. Well, it seems like you guys can all be reviewers. You guys know exactly what to look for. That whatever reason that for all the reasons that you guys have listed. I mean, these are all the reasons that we ask people for modify. We have one more. Some meetings that have. Oh, that's a different thing. So basically, I mean, you know what's going on. But I just want to reemphasize that our philosophy, even though we ask you to modify, it's not because it's not good enough or something. A lot of times we ask you to modify, we just hope it to get even better than it already is. So in that case, present to make it even clearer and make it even stronger, just so that people will come to your poster and you get to talk to them. So our philosophy is we really want the poster section be beneficial to both the presenters and attendees. So if you write it really well and it will make it really, really clear, it's like we're all helping you to make to make your abstract even better. So if you have really good abstract, then people will come and you can have discussion with them. Then maybe you can help you design the next experiment and the next project. So we really want to make sure everybody's here. ASMCUE is really a community, so we really want everybody to benefit from it. So we really want to accept everybody. So a lot of times we just ask people to write it to make it better, or we just want to see better. So a lot of times, here's the number one reason that this is modified. Mechanical problems, sometimes not very clear, not very well organized, or we have some international colleagues, and that sometimes we will help them modify, we'll help them with the language. But a lot of times the mechanical problem is too long or too short, not clear, where is the results, so we want to just clarification. Here is just a very good project. We can see it. We can just see this is a very good project, but the way it's written may be not very clear, you might not attract enough attendees to your poster, so that's not good. Travel all this way, spend all this money, right? So, and sometimes we just want to get the bottom of it because the abstract was written in such a way that's a little bit ambiguous. We don't really know if it's finished or not. So sometimes we say modify, and the reason is we just want to know, are you done or not? You write it it's written in such a way that it's done, but not quite. So a lot of times after we ask people to modify, it turned out to be from AM turned into R to reject, was because it was just actually not done. So if you get one of those letters that we want to see some data, I'm still collecting data in the spring semester, well, then we don't know. We hope that you can get enough data and you get enough data to do all the analysis before the meeting. But what if it doesn't happen? So what happened to your poster? So a lot of times we would like to see that you already have data in hand and then ready to present. So sometimes we ask you to modify just because we really want to figure out exactly whether you've learned, just to figure out whether you've learned or not, whether you have data or not. So we talk about some examples, and I ask you to kind of comment. So you guys seem to know exactly what we're looking for. There's no secret. Everything is out there. Here's the guidelines and rubrics, and these are the things that we reviewers use. This is our guideline and rubric as well when we read abstracts, when you read the abstracts that are submitted to us. So guidelines, abstracts are limited to 1850 characters, including spaces. You don't really have to count. The computer can do it for you. So longer doesn't mean better. So here's the guideline, and completed abstract should be submitted by this time. So here's the guideline, number one. And here's another guideline. Okay, so this is the most important one, actually. The abstract should describe innovative teaching approaches or the specific activities conducted by the students and must indicate how those changes affected students' learning. Be surprised how often people didn't really address this, or they have that in mind, but they didn't write down in their abstract. So we have to ask them to modify and say, well, say it, so we know. And it has to be students too. And sometimes we have people working on something else, but just show us that this is done on students, and it actually has impact on students' learning. And work described in the abstract must have been tested on students, and assessment of the activity's outcome should be described. So we want this to be a complete project. You have a complete story to tell, and really has to be on students. Not faculty, other faculty, whatever. It just has to be. We want this to be a complete project, so we can share a complete story. And I don't know how other reviewers see it. As a review committee chair, I really see these two guidelines posted on ASMCUE website. I see that as a promise to our potential attendees. So anybody who's thinking about attending our meeting, thinking about coming to ASMCUE, they will look at the guidelines and expecting that all the posters will be at this caliber, will be addressing these things. So you have about teaching approaches, about trying things on it. Just an idea is not enough. You have to try these ideas on your students already. So I see that as a promise. It's how we advertise, and we don't want to false advertise our meeting. So that's why we reviewers actually look into these guidelines, and we really review the abstracts based on these guidelines. Here's a rubric. Rubrics is very straightforward. It is also on the website. Eligibility requirement, basically the research study that your abstract, your work, your study should address an appropriate question regarding student learning in microbiology or biological sciences. So you might have a very good idea about teaching kindergarten, but that's not what we're here for. It's conference for undergraduate educator. But if it's K-12, it's K-12 outreach, then that's a different story, because that's what we do at college. Some college educators are really into outreach, community outreach, and that is acceptable. But it has to be something with microbiology or biology. Before we have some faculty development program. So, faculty development program may be a good idea that will help faculty be more involved in teaching and learning. But now, how does this faculty workshop impact students' learning? If it's indirect, then we probably won't accept you unless you can demonstrate that your workshop actually, the teacher workshop actually enhances students' learning. If you can show us the data, then it will be an accept. Otherwise, we really like to see students involved. Like you have students in your project. A little bit of background, just back to Jennifer's abstract. She said, well, there are 3-year sequences, there are 3 biology courses sequence, and something is going on. Students are their academic performance is declining, and their attitude is not getting better. So then hypothesis, back to Jennifer's. So you have specific hypothesis. This is the question we like to address. The author defines how the activity or the approach is expected to impact students' learning. So you have to have a hypothesis that we're looking, or at least tell us a problem. Why are you doing this? Not necessarily just, well, here's a hypothesis. We hypothesize this and that. Well, it'd be great. But also you can say, well, here's the problem. Here's the problem that we have, and we think this will be a good solution. You have to state the problems. You have to tell us why you're doing it. Hypothesis, and then you have an assessment method. The author clearly and briefly describes the methodologies employed to gather and analyze data. So you just have to tell us how you do it, and what is the results. What have you gotten? And then conclusion. Tell us, summarize the outcome of the research study. And I read briefly. Someone said that. Someone said, well, no effect is the result. That's correct. You just what did you get? Tell us what did you get, and what have you learned from what you've gotten. And relevancy. the research, so your project the research described has the potential to lead the field in new directions and adds to and deepens understanding of issues associated with teaching and learning. So someone earlier said something about broaden the field. So yeah, so you just kind of help us learn more about other people learn more about teaching and student learning, and that kind of tie into innovation. So you have to come up with something new. I don't think stickers is very innovative or have the great learning, but just tell us something that we don't know, and we can all go back to our own home institutes and try it. The structure, again, just abstract, just clearly written, and well organized. That's what we're looking for. So 3 things to remember: read the guidelines and rubrics. Second, read it again and again. So just basically guidelines and rubric, that's what we're looking for. And that's our guideline, the reviewer's guidelines and rubrics as well. And 2 suggestions: just share your abstracts with your team. We're biology scholars, so share our abstracts with our team members or our facilitators before submission. Just it's 1850 characters, 1850 characters. So it's not that long. People can read it in an hour or 2 and give you comments. So if we can finish it and then share with your friends, and we can comment and help each other. Or you can send it to any of us. I'm volunteer all of them. Just email us if you want us to look at it first or give you comments and give you some feedback before you submit. We'd be more than happy to do it. This Biology Scholar and ASMCUE are just great communities to help. I've learned so much from everybody that I met over the years. So it's a great, everybody should take advantage of this community. It's amazing. So here's a suggestion. So any questions? Yes, I finished in time. So any questions? Let me have to move this down. Oh, wait. Oh, I see this question. Do other meetings do modify? I don't think other meetings do modifies as much as we do that I know of. Like ASM general meeting, you just either reject or accept. I think it's just the teachers in us that we want to see everything, every assignment turn out to be perfect. Can anybody say anything about GM review? I don't know how GM review. Kelly?
Yes, I can talk a little bit about that in the fact that some of the leadership does overlap, but they do not have the same process set up. It's definitely done in a completely separate way, and you are not allowed to modify or change a GM abstract. Theirs is a straight up or down. They kind of follow the same research model. So it is done separately, but it's always been a question. But yes, you can present it both because we are considered an affiliated meeting, but sometimes your abstract may look different. That's accepted in each meeting.
Great, thank you. What the abstracts are regarding, I don't know, we're thinking about 80 abstracts, 70 to 80 abstracts that we'll be reading this year. So Kurt's question, what if the data won't be available until after the abstracts deadline? I don't know. I think a lot of times this is definitely a modify if we don't have data right away. So is that for sure that we will have data by the end of the semester? Most of the time we just ask people to just wait till next year, unless you're 100% certain that you will have the data. or you can have however much data you have at the moment. Then you can just put those in. That's great too. We just want to know that you have looked at the data already. Here's another question. How about IRB? We were told that the IRB approval, but it doesn't seem to be a formal requirement. No, we didn't ask you to have ASMCUE didn't say. I think it's the IRB. Anything you want to present, you have to have IRB approval before you do the research. Is that right, Kelly?
It actually depends more on your institution.
Oh, okay.
And their requirements. We do not investigate any of the IRB process, but if your institution requires it, you certainly should be doing it. Mm-hmm. And it's worthwhile perhaps mentioning at the end of your abstract.
Yeah. So at Furman, we just have to, anything you want to share with anybody but yourself, you need to have IRB. So so here's another question. Could you present it? Oh, if you're in the year 2 and you have some preliminary data, if you have data already, you can just base on the first year's data and here's what we have learned so far, and we anticipate what will happen next year. I think that's good. The only thing that we're concerned is there's no data. No data have been collected. So if you have nothing collected, and just say we will have some data, then that's kind of risky. But if you already have some data, you're in the process of collecting, if you can analyze however much that you have, I think that's acceptable. Let's see what other questions. Yeah, I know I just got stuff from guidelines and rubrics, but that's just exactly what the reviewers are using. We're just looking at guidelines and we're looking at rubrics when we review abstracts. There's really no secret. It's all there. Any other questions?
All right, if there's no other questions, I just wanted to say a big thank you to Min Ken for putting the presentation together. I hope you guys found it useful. Before you guys run off to your classes or whatnot, we do have 2 survey questions for you just to kind of get a feel for how helpful this presentation was and if we can offer it again, if we should offer it again and whatnot. So I am creating a slide for you guys to answer. Let's see. All right. If you guys could just take a minute and click either not very well passable or very well to the slide, that would be very helpful. Okay, and one more. All right, that looks great. Thank you all for attending. If you have any further questions, you can email anyone on the slide, anyone at ASM. The general email is asmcue@asmusa.org, and you should have Kelly or my email addresses as well. Thanks again for attending, and we look forward to working with you over the next few months as well. Have a good one.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. This does conclude our teleconference for the day. You may now disconnect.